Hi, welcome back. We're talking to Brian Sharon, Customs Officer for Canada. And just having you sit there in your uniform makes me nervous. I haven't even done anything wrong. But what is your main function for Canada Customs?
As a customs inspector, Jerry, and travelers will see them coming to and leaving the country, the main function is for the protection of Canada's safety, economical life, and the environment for Canada.
Okay. Traveling public, they are allowed a certain exemptions. What are those exemptions, and if you can
Basically, it'd be better to qualify who is entitled to the exemptions, and that is basically residents of Canada, former residents, temporary residents, and even babes in arms. When it comes to babes in arms, it's basically up to the parent or the guardian to make that declaration for them. And it should be noted that the goods must be for the baby.
I know lights come on in my head. All right, we'll have a couple of babies, and
yes.
So really, you can claim up to $300 for a baby, as long as it's articles for baby, like cribs.
Every person is entitled to that exemption.
So it's
after 7 days absence. The three exemptions basically are the 24-hour exemption, 48-hour exemption, and the 7-day exemption.
And what amounts can you claim with each?
At the 24-hour, any number of times a year, providing you've been out of the country for 24 hours, are entitled to $20 Canadian exemption. This excludes alcoholic and tobacco beverages and products. But other than that and everything, and it should be noted that if you exceed the $20 exemption becomes null and void, and duty and taxes will be collected on the total amount.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So if someone's out of the country for less than that time,
there are no exemptions.
There are no exemptions.
No.
Okay. And then they have the option to pay the duty.
That's
right.
Right.
Okay.
And then they have the 48-hour exemption, which is any number of times a year, providing they've been out for 48 hours. They're allowed $100 Canadian upon their return, cigarettes, and an alcoholic declaration.
Okay, and then the last and final one that should be
7 days absence from Canada, not counting the day you leave. So that if you left on the Friday the 7th and returned on the 14th, you qualify under the 7-day exemption, which entitles you to $300 Canadian once in a calendar year.
And a calendar year goes
from January the 1st to December the 31st. It should be noted at this point that you cannot combine your 48-hour $100 exemption or your 7-day $300 exemption together for $400.
Okay.
That's not a very good entitlement.
And I guess people try to do that.
Nor can you use half of your $300 earlier in the calendar year and save the remainder for another trip. You can't do that either. It must be used at all in one.
Okay, and again, all members of the family are entitled to
That's right.
any type of the...
And when you make these declarations, when you say all the members of the family, providing they're of legal age for the alcoholic beverages and the cigarettes, I believe you just check your territorial or your provincial or state regulations will entitle you whether the age restrictions on the alcohol or the tobacco.
Okay, now what type of articles are restricted? Like what can you not bring back in the country?
Okay, you're getting to there because there's prohibited and there are restricted. Restricted are articles such as firearms, explosives, fireworks, different articles like that, which are restricted by applying for a permit. It's not saying that you can't bring them into the country. It's just that you must apply for a permit prior to importing the goods.
And I would never thought of that of fireworks because, you know, so many times you go across the border and...
For example, when you say fireworks, firecrackers, the cannon, they're explosives, almost like dynamite, only on a much smaller scale. You require a permit to get these fireworks in. Same as dynamite, TNT, different articles like that. From the Energy, Mines and Resources in Ottawa will issue the permit upon your request prior to importing again.
Okay, so those are the ones that are restricted, and then there's other kinds that are prohibited, and that's
right.
what really can get you into trouble.
That's right. Prohibited means it is not allowed in the country.
Period.
Period.
Okay, and what kind of articles, like ivory?
Well, in certain cases, yes. In certain cases, you require a permit, again, from External Affairs Canada. There are other restrictions. Clothing requires a permit. I know you say, why clothing? But it is protect the industry here in Canada. And
I
it's
never
a
knew that.
statistical point that Ottawa has a way of knowing what is actually imported into the country.
How? Because I know you know, like
Mhm.
you dress up and you wear things across. Oh yeah, I didn't. You know, I bought them back in Canada, and so
Mhm.
so you guys have
Yeah.
a pretty good eye of.
Right. Prohibited, when you get into prohibited, there's a very vast majority.
And the best
Machine
thing to do
guns,
is
automatic guns, firearms such as that are not restricted, that are prohibited. They're just not allowed. For anyone who wants more information, all they have to do is contact their local customs officer and in the area where they live, and they'll be gladly told whether it's prohibited, restricted, or what the rates of duties would be.
Okay, and I know the one question that everybody's waiting for, and I've written this down. What point does an officer decide to make an inspection? I mean, that's the critical point. Like, I know.
Okay. For a long time, everybody has asked this question time and time again. What makes the officer examine it? Why does he examine it? And basically, it's up to the individual officer. As you approach Canada, you'll see the traffic lanes and all the traffic tie-ups, or on some occasions you'll see whether they're empty and you can go right through. And you'll approach the first customs officer, and he is the welcoming committee per se for Canada. He is the first person you see upon your return back to Canada. He will ask various questions, trying to protect, again, the economical life in Canada. He has several government departments that he must maintain, questioning for immigration, so on and so forth. It is at that point he will ask you a line of questioning. It will deal with immigrations, it could deal with customs, and it could deal with other facets of the government. And it's his line of questioning, and he will determine whether a secondary examination is required, such as you may be over your limit, your exemption. It may be an American or a person coming here to work on a work permit. There's several different areas of why a secondary examination would take place. And it's basically up to the officer at that point.
Okay, so it's sort of like a sixth feeling and
Mhm.
sixth sense.
Yeah.
We're not going to give away any trade. I don't want to call them secrets,
secrets,
but
yeah.
whatever. Let's just say for, like, I know there's something nerve-wracking about filling out this form, because even when you're under and you have to stand in that line and you know that you haven't anywhere near reached your limit, you're absolutely nervous. And it has to have telltale signs, so there must be different kinds of nervousness, like nervous just because of your uniform, and he would know if you're nervous because you're going through the line, or nervous because you're actually over your limit, or you're carrying something through you're not supposed to.
Over the years of doing the job as a customs inspector, you learn the different types of people and dealing with the general people. Basically, a rule of thumb that comes to mind is you treat the general public the way you would want to be treated yourself when traveling. And in doing that and keeping that in mind, you can tell the difference between a nervous traveler who automatically has a nervous feeling about a uniform, whether it be a police officer's uniform, a security guard uniform, or a customs
signs
uniform.
of authority.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of get
And
nervous about.
you detect that right away. And then you can detect the difference between a person who is just
doing something they shouldn't be.
yeah, I would say that, or has something to hide, or whatever the case may be. It takes a time to develop that working ability, but it's there, and I just have to say a word to your viewers. If you can imagine what goes through on a customs officer's day, it can be pretty hectic. Traffic tie-ups, lineups, travelers that just want to get home after a long travel. You have no idea, and they have no idea, of what the traveler has been through in the States, albeit maybe a good holiday, and it may not have been a good holiday. Bear with us. We're trying the best we can, and you know, we're there to help the general public.
And also, as you say, to protect Canada.
That's right. That's the first and foremost, protect the economical life and the environment of Canada.
You brought along a couple of brochures. Now,
Yes, I
are
have.
these brochures available at Customs?
At any customs office
Okay.
or border crossing, basically, there's several brochures that you can get, almost on anything. The ones I have brought along are...
Maybe you can pass them to me and I'll hold them to the camera.
I Declare.
This is an I Declare, and what basically is in...
Basically, that has all your exemptions, your restrictions, and some of your prohibited articles, who is entitled to your exemptions, what you should do prior to leaving Canada and when coming back, and also about, you know, registering any of your articles leaving Canada.
Okay, and that's really important to do, isn't it? To
That's right.
register your articles so that you don't...
It expedites your trip through customs much quicker.
Okay, and that's like cameras, binoculars, and it's a simple form. And do you have to reapply every time you take a vacation?
No,
or is
there's
that...
no expiry date on these Form Y38 cards, and it's just a little wallet-sized card that you can keep. Should you have anything to add to it at a future date, you can just bring that card in and the new article that you want to have registered at any customs office, and a customs office will gladly recomplete another one for you, adding the new article, but there is no expiry date on it.
Okay. So
And
that's-
we have another one here for thinking about importing and what you should know prior to importing, and
what
it
about
basically
antiquities?
tells you.
Like when, you know, you have to be very careful when you're bringing in antiques.
Yeah, there's several pieces of policies dealing with antiques, such as the certification, the authenticity, the circa, which is the 17th, 18th century, things like this that qualify it for a duty-free exemption.
I don't know, it's so complex, isn't it?
It can be
The more I
very...
talk to you, the more scared I get. No.
No, you should never be scared. We're here to help. And the other one is for settling, is a brochure on settling in Canada. If you're wishing to come here either as a business or come here to live, by all means, pick up the brochure from settling.
Okay.
The new form we have here is a 311 form, and it basically has taken the place of the old E24 form. And it's a much smaller, compact form as to what everyone is used to
this
at
piece
the,
of paper,
at the
this is the
border.
one that's sort of going, now what is it that I bought?
It's not much different than the E24.
Now, how can we help travelers get through this very quickly? As far as they should keep all the receipts that they purchase, and they have to remember that if they purchase it in U.S. dollars, calculate it to Canadian.
That's right.
Because it doesn't mean 300 U.S., it's 300
No,
Canadian.
300 Canadian.
Okay.
They are available also at any customs office. You'll see them quite a bit at the airport. And back into the exemptions, the 24 and the 48 hour may require a written declaration, which is what you're holding in your hand. That's up to the officer. The 7-day requires a written one. So you'll see the majority of them being filled out after 7 days absence.
Okay, and also for people coming across the border, it's a good idea to keep bills of their accommodation to prove their length of stay away.
Yeah, that's for your own protection. People say, how do you know when you're only going to be
Yeah,
home?
that's right.
And my basic question is, as soon as you get over there, purchase something, gasoline, anything at the store, and ask the attendant there for a receipt that will show the date.
Okay, and one other quick question too. You don't put the license plates number in a computer when you go across the border? Okay, I thought you did. And what was the other question that I had? Oh, how can they keep track of how many times you've spent your $300 limit?
Okay, that form
This
in your
form
hand
here.
is
So-
forwarded on to Ottawa for statistical purposes, for Stats Canada.
Oh, so
Tells
if they
us
run
the
it-
travelers, that the volume, the amounts. It has very not complex, very vast area for control and the statistics that can come from that form.
Okay, so you might have someone knocking on your door if you do it twice in a year.
It's a possibility, but not a great possibility, but it could happen.
But they keep track.
Yes.
Well, thanks a lot, Brian, for coming. I mean, I enjoyed our talk, and I certainly have learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers has too.
It's been
So
my
the next
pleasure.
time we go through customs, we smile and say hello.
Thank you.
Okay.